Okay. Got a new ignition and spark plug. Thank you, Costco's, for a cajillion Sharpies for £9. I've been lent these shocks. So I'm going to pop these bushes out and give them a go. And then I'm going to take my carb off and strip it and clean it. Take my throttle cable off because I want to make a new one. And that's probably all I've got time for today because I've got to do real life in a bit. So I've only got an hour, so let's crack on. Okay, so it turns out the rubber bushes are too loose for this one, and that's a 10. Goes on there, doesn't go on there, so I'll order up some bushes, but I'm just going to bodge them on for now just so I can roll the bike around a bit better. Turns out that the shock that we popped on has got the bigger ones in, both, which is why it was loose on the bottom, so let me start again. Do for now. They're just a temporary measure just to work out the height, so I can order some shocks at length. It looks pretty good. I just want that Cub 90 arm to be a bit horizontal. Right, let's drain the fuel and get that carb off. So I got that off. I cannot wait to do this chally properly. This year I'm just gonna rattle can it, basically do a dry build, make sure it goes good, and then before next summer I'm gonna strip it all down, gonna weld up some holes and get the frame, forks and all that powder coated, and probably buy a new engine, just the same engine but just a fresh one. And then basically put it all back together. Next I'm just gonna strip this down, brake cleaner it and blow it all through, and then just pop it in a nice clean bag ready for when we put it back together. I still haven't ordered my chain. Payday's tomorrow and I'm gonna order it then. Cool, so it's a VM26. Have no idea if it's an actual real one or not, but it seemed to work good over the years, apart from recently. So yeah, just strip it down, flush loads of brake cleaner through it and airline everything. I'll pop that in a nice sealed plastic bag, keep that fresh. Gonna remake the throttle cable because seen better days, this one. Starting to pull through. But you have to make your own throttle cable, so this is like a road bike in situ gear adjuster. It's a gear cable, and then in the throttle here, just a slide, it's like a slide throttle thing inside. I use a little brass knob thing out of a electrical box that they earth to. They seem to be perfect size. I'm going to remake one of them. So I'll get that throttle cable out. And then, I don't know what else to do today. I've got to have a look at that actually in a sec. Actually, I'll tell you what I'll do next is I'll pop off this ignition and change the spark plug, check that out. New ignition, all the earth's back on, all this wiring is going to get all tidied up. I've got rid of my battery, so it just, the little LED lights just run straight off the ignition. But yeah, new spark plug on, so kind of done for today. I need to have a quick look at the shifter on that. It's gone a bit stiff. So this has just gone a little tight, which is annoying me. So I'm going to take it apart and have a look at the bearing. This is a homemade quick shifter, a floor mounted one, because I was fed up with the sloppy standard one and didn't want to go down the route of all that Z3 stuff. So let me strip this apart and I'll show you the shifter I made. It's a bit of a mess under here with the wiring, because this was an auto shell. But I've just got a temporary fan switch until I do that fan switch thing I needed to do in the bay. But this is my homemade quick shift. It's just a plate with a spherical bearing, machined a rod. I've also mounted my hydraulic handbrake off of it. So let's strip that off. Right, so here's my quick shift. Like I said, I wanted a nice floor mounted one, and I decided to make my own, and do you know what, it was actually super easy. So I just cut, originally the hydraulic handbrake wasn't mounted to it, so I just cut this plate. It's like 6mm, took me bloody ages with an angle grinder. 4 holes, and then to mount it to the floor, there's just 4 riv nuts, and then just jump forwards quickly. When I first built it, it was flush on the floor, and it wasn't shifting right, so I kind of copied, I think it's H2B, and their shifters are quite raised up, so I machined some spacers and I used this like really dense foam as like a gasket to stop the hot air coming through from the gearbox. So yeah, so 4 riv nuts, some spacers. I popped the original shifter arm in that the actual gear stick goes in, and I marked this location in regards to the hole in the tunnel. and then you can buy an M16 spherical bearing and housing off eBay for like 20 quid. So luckily I had a hole saw this size, bored a hole, welded it on. I machined the bottom lock ring part of this off, and then the way I retain it in is that sits flush, and then I've got a retaining plate, because what I didn't want was a circlip here hitting the sides, because if you actually look, the circlip on top that holds the gear stick in is, I've obviously been a bit too vigorous with the gear changes, and then this is the actual shaft itself. So I just bought a piece of precision ground 16mm bright mild steel. I just worked out a length. I measured my mate's one for this length, and then all you need to do is machine a circlip line in, so then that sits on the bottom, then circlip on top and the stick can't come out, and then that's a piece of the 16mm tube itself with a 10mm bore, and I keep that really lubed up. If I was fancy pants, which I might do this soon, is I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to drill down the shaft and drill and tap in the side for an oil nipple thing, and then drill through basically another one of these, and then every once in a while I can clip on a oil thing and pump grease down to the bottom like you do on the old lathes and stuff to keep that lubricated. But I just pumped it full of lube and it seems to be alright. But the problem is when this is all clamped up, this bearing gets really stiff, so it's just binding on something, so try and find out what. Okay, so when the retaining plate's on, that's when it becomes stiff. So what I'll do is on the back of this where it's holding the outer bearing race on, I'll just chuck it on the lathe and just machine a step in it so it doesn't compress it, so it kind of stays just a tiny bit floating, so this literally just retains it from coming out rather than squishing it down, and then that should be nice and silky smooth again. It's really stiff, don't like it. Right, let's crack on with that. Actually, when I took the bearing out, you might be able to see it on there, this part of the outer race is all sort of squidged up a bit, and then in there the inner bit has got a lip on it as well, so instead of being two flat surfaces, there's two lips going against each other, so this bearing's silky smooth out of that. So those two lips must be just crushing this side case a smidge, which is just binding on the actual bearing itself. Let me file them off and try that out. Whenever I'm going to film the next bit, this thing always kicks in. Go for that. Right, that is silky. Now all I did was I used the end of this carbide bit, it's actually got sort of teeth on the end, and I took that lip off and then just used a little barrel sander bit, moved the bearing out the way and just sanded that lip back off. It feels really good now. Let me get this back on. So as you can see now, it's beautiful. So the problem was those two little tabs of the circlip obviously just gone a bit overzealous. Oh well, what can you do, eh? It's worked for ages before getting stiff, so that'll do. Chug it back in.
Purchase your tracks today.
Oh, it feels so much nicer. That noise when I shift is this. It's actually like make some bushings for that or something, but lovely jubbly. I think in total this whole quick shift cost me 45 quid in materials. But obviously you need a TIG welder, a lathe, a big pillar drill, hole saws, big chunks of metal. But it's better than paying £300. Does the exact same job. So I've had enough for this morning. Now I've got to go and do adult things. I'm going to hopefully pick this up tomorrow, where I've devised a plan for the Starlet, which I'll explain with some drawings. Now I haven't had time today to do the Starlet. I will do it in the week. I basically just come up with an idea for the chassis rails. I need to get them inside the car. I think I worked out how, but yeah, so that's the end of this vid. I'll try and get some more filmed over the bank holiday weekend and do some more welding on it, I suppose, and get these chassis rails done. Yeah, look, my doggo Jeff's getting big.